and I had gotten to like this really low point in my life, and I remember I was in my room. Discipleship is not teaching. You can't do that with 1 million followers. And I think God did that on purpose.
Hi guys, welcome to another, Gospel Girl Gab, whatever you want to call it. Today I'm interviewing Willy Bilong, and we're gonna have a nice chat here. We go to the same church, but Willy is an active leader in the youth and young adult ministry. That's actually where I was first introduced to him. Back in the days, I used to go to youth. Even though I was like 19, I shouldn't have been youth. Like, no one told me.
Everybody does that. Everybody who comes does that. Because I think that was, especially when we were doing it earlier, that's how we would do it. Or that's how people would do before they got introduced to Wednesdays.
Wow.
So you would come to the youth, and that's how you have like a bunch of college students still in the youth. Not these
It's
days,
a little more low pressure.
Yeah.
Than young adult. Like young adult,
Right. You get used to everybody, you learn everybody's names, and then if you really like us, you come to a Wednesday.
Yeah, so that's basically what I did. Now I go to Wednesday. But yeah, so let's hear a little bit about you. How did God find you? What's your story with that?
Okay, how did God find me? So
people want to know.
Okay. I can start from when I was born, I guess. There was a lot of like, I guess, stories around that. Both my parents are in ministry. My dad's a pastor. My mom, she's a minister as well. From what I remember, they went to Bible school together. And the Bible school that they went to was actually connected to Harvest way back when, but they didn't know until we finally got to the church at this point, that it was connected. But yeah, so they went to the Bible school and all of that, and they were like noticing signs, at least from the stories, they were noticing signs that like God was doing things. Sometimes I'd be saying things that I don't know, or sometimes like God would speak through me when I was like little, and obviously I don't remember any of these things. So that's like, I guess, early on, but I was too young to remember that. So where my like, I guess, consciousness kicks in, maybe like 8 or something, when, or maybe earlier, we moved around a lot, and I've been in the church the whole time. Obviously, my dad has been a pastor the whole time, so I have never known anything other than church, or the church and the church setting. So I couldn't even tell you the day that I got saved, because I've been saved like 15 times. At least that's how many times I've prayed the prayer.
Yeah.
But
like the prodigal son just running
back. Every time.
That's
like
all
I would always pray, and now because I'm just like I don't know. So let me like reaffirm my saved status. So I gotta pray it again. But I'd say the moment where like I guess I made a decision for myself was in 2021, either 2021 or 2020. Anyway, COVID time. I think that happened to a lot of people, but definitely to me, like. Obviously, we're trapped in the house. Nobody can go anywhere. Nobody can do anything. And I had gotten to like this really low point in my life. And I remember I was in my room and I was like, Lord, I'm just going to try. Like, I'm going to try. I don't really trust it. I don't really believe it. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to try. And if it works out, then cool. But if it doesn't, which I was thinking it wouldn't, then I'm gonna go back. That's kind of like the deal that I made with him. Wow. And that's 4 years ago at this point, and we're still here. So. How
old were you then?
16.
You were 16. Wow. So there's this 16-year-old Willy in his room just talking to God.
No, I was more so like challenging him. Yeah, I was like, you're not gonna, like you're not gonna do it. And so I was thinking that I would just stick my head in for like a week. And after a week, I'll just pull my head back out and I'd be good. But
that's so many people's stories. Yeah. You always think God's not going to answer, but our God is real. Wow. So do you feel like He answered after that, or? Yeah.
After that point, I said to myself, like, okay, I have to be fair. If I'm going to challenge God, I have to be fair. So I started genuinely opening my Bible, genuinely watching sermons, genuinely listening, like changing the kind of music that I listen to. Just really like a whole lifestyle change, because I've been in the church, so I kind of know what you're supposed to do. And so I just said to myself, okay, I know what to do, but like the attitude is what I never brought. So let me bring a different attitude knowing in the back of my head that, again, this is probably going to fail later. And as I brought that attitude, I just started getting drawn in more and more. And like I said, here I am. Like I could not turn back if I tried to. Yeah.
No take backs.
Yeah, no take back. No take backs.
Okay, that's wonderful. So talked a little bit how you work in the young adult and the youth ministry. How did you know that that's something that you wanted to go into? I mean, obviously you're a young person, but there's other ministries that you could have chosen. So what drew you to that one?
I think I can't even necessarily say that I chose it, really. Some people will say that it chose me. I don't feel like I chose it or it chose me. I kind of just woke up and I was there. Because, like I said, having been in the church for all of my life, service was also a thing that I was always doing. Whether I was taking God seriously or not, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be stacking the chairs. I'm going to be holding the door for people. I'm going to be holding the sign and greeting people. We're going to be passing out communion if they let me. We're going to be doing offering if they, like, whatever it is, media, all of the different stuff. I was in media boot camps and taking pictures. And I mean, at this point in time, I think I've just about been a part of every ministry. I even had a bid in, like, security at one point. Like, just about every ministry that you can possibly think that they might have.
I love that.
Was I in children's? I think I was in children's ministry. I was part of children's ministry, and I think I had served. I don't remember. Probably not, but maybe the babies. The babies, I think.
The babies. They had you with the babies?
No, they didn't. That's what I'm saying. I think that's the only one that I didn't do. But anyway, in all of that, like, I think I just had an eye, or maybe I was being trained to have an eye for where there's a need. And because I'm young, obviously, like, when I was starting, I was still in high school. I was still part of the youth ministry. So, like, I was going to be there anyway. I was going to be in the services anyway. But I was just in my corner, worshiping God, doing my stuff. And at one point, like, the praise and worship team was in deficit. They only had 2 people at that point singing. And one of our sound men came up to me and he's like, listen, you don't have to go on the stage. Just take the mic and just sing from right here. And from that point, that's how, like, I really got like deeply integrated into the whole youth ministry thing in terms of, like, serving for them instead of just being a part of it.
Okay.
Just by, like, offering my services, if you will.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So it started with worship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In terms of my service, it definitely started with worship. Like I said, I was part of it forever, but when I started serving, it was praise and worship. Yeah.
That's powerful. Okay, we're getting into the juicy stuff, future questions. So you've been doing this for a while now, because that was 4 years ago that you kind of started getting into the discipleship ministry and decided to give God your own chance and your own choice at it. Do you feel like he is calling you to disciple at a larger sphere, and what would that look like for you?
I would say, first off, that discipleship is not anything that's unique to me. And so, like, I expect that believers who take their faith seriously sooner rather than later would end up in discipleship. Like, that's my expectation.
Can you expand on that?
So, for example, who is it? Philip Anthony Mitchell. What's his church called?
I was just watching him this morning. 2819.
2819. Okay. So 2819, that church, as everybody knows, is famous for, their name is after the scripture, Matthew 28:19, which is to go out into all the world, make disciples, baptize them, yada 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 yada. Right. That was the commandment that Jesus gave to the apostles, who were his original 12 disciples, and then he left. And his disciples are supposed to make disciples, who are supposed to make disciples, and so on and so forth. So if you're a believer and you're taking God seriously, keyword is if you're a believer and you're taking God seriously, then the expectation is that discipleship should follow. And if discipleship doesn't follow, then I suppose you can still be a believer, but you would have to stop there.
Right.
Because the rest of your calling, the rest of your gifts, the rest of your ministry is supposed to be to build everybody else up, to help everybody else, to help everybody stand, and so on. So all in all, I feel that burden and passion and everything for discipleship arguably because I'm taking my faith seriously. And I think that if you don't have a burden for discipleship, it's because you're not taking your faith seriously. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be a discipler necessarily, because the first burden or desire or whatever that a person should have is to be discipled or to be a disciple.
Right.
Like, you should want to look like Jesus. You should want to walk like him and talk like him and so on. And that takes learning. That takes sitting with the Lord and all of that stuff. But if you're just like, oh, I'm saved, all right, that's good for you. But I don't want to hear you teaching anybody anything, because that's not how we build the church. The church grows and is built by disciples and by discipleship. So yeah, when I entered praise and worship, and when I started taking my faith with God seriously, I started looking around and noticing just how many people my age, older and younger, have no idea what we're doing, have no idea what we're talking about. Like, they just show up and they say words and they don't know what those words mean. And I'm like, you people have no idea how much you're actually missing in this whole thing. And it's like, okay, no wonder the Christian life is hard and everything is difficult. And I'm not saying the Christian life isn't hard, but there's an aspect of it that should not be complicated to you. And that aspect that should not be complicated to you is you and God. You and him should be like this. Let the world hate you. Yeah, let the world hate you and get persecuted and all the things. That's that side. Let that side be the hard side. But don't be looking and scratching your head asking yourself, does God love me? Does he care about me? What's the point of even having a relationship with him? Those are things that, like, if you don't know that, then we're struggling, like, with the essence, with the foundation, with the basics of your faith.
Yeah.
Like,
that's so true.
One of the things that is always burning in my heart is, like, looking at the church and looking at the fact that so many people have already gotten saved, and we are doing our best to make sure that so many more people get saved. But we're skipping the part where we raise and grow the people who are already saved. Like, now that's just me, because everybody has their different callings or whatever. Somebody who's more of an evangelist would probably think that what I'm saying is, like, heretical. But I'm the kind of person who's willing to see everything shut down for a year, so that the people who we already know are saved can grow, can be raised, can be whatever. Because what purpose is there in making our churches bigger, in filling more seats, in having larger crowds or whatever, if you just have a further saturation of people who are saved but have no idea what that means?
It is usually a focus on the evangelism side, on the outreach, and then you're talking about the inside, like what's going on at the inside, because at the end of the day, those are the people that are going to do the outreach, are going to bring in the harvest. Let's get into the touchy subjects, but what do you find difficult about discipleship, or is there anything that you find like, okay, this is kind of a tough thing to handle? Be honest now.
I would ask a question to your question.
Ask me a question.
Okay.
I'm getting interviewed on my interview.
When you say, what do I find difficult about discipleship, do you mean from the people, from which angle? As a person who ought to be discipled, or as a person who ought to be doing the discipling? Meaning from the perspective of the student or from the perspective of the teacher?
Wow. Yeah, I definitely want to say, the student would be interesting, but for this purposes, from this perspective of the teacher. Okay. Just like as someone, because it's a high calling, pretty much everything God calls you to is a high calling, and it's not easy. So there's a sanctification process, there is, just like you said, persecution, and people don't always see every single side of that, and they kind of make their own judgments and their own opinions. So yeah, like what has your experience been with that?
Okay, so from like a teacher's perspective, I would say that the most frustrating thing is looking horizontally to the left and to the right, and seeing how many people are doing things that they're calling discipleship that are not discipleship. So, for example, you are trying to teach people how to be like you.
Yeah. Ooh.
Mentorship, maybe, right? Which is like a business thing. Okay, you want them to emulate you so they can do whatever it is that you're doing and so on. But you are not Jesus. So copy and pasting your life onto somebody else's life will also include copying and pasting your mistakes onto them. A lot of these people who are doing discipleship and discipling, whatever, are not disciples themselves. Like, either number one, you can't trace them back to somebody. Like, you can't ask them who discipled you and they can give you a straight answer. Or they'll give you an answer, but it's flimsy. Yeah, either they have nobody who they submit to, or they're pretending to submit to somebody. Because there's a lot of glamour in being the teacher. There's a lot of glamour in being the guy who stands, or the girl, or whoever who stands and opens the Bible, and then you add all of the titles, and I am the... Chill. Because the people that you're creating are going to become a problem for us later. The people that you're raising and you're teaching, you're training them to be bad.
And they're going to idolize you.
And then they'll idolize you. And now we have to ask ourselves if these people that you're raising are Christians, because you have become the God that they're worshiping. You have become the pattern that they're now going to go out. And now the gospel that they preach in this instance would be the gospel of Willy and not the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Wow. Oh, that's good. Then how can discipleship be misunderstood in that way, from like perspectives of not only like people who are in a church setting, people that have like what I do, like people that have YouTubes and social medias and blogs and all those types of things, and people just follow them. They don't know anything about their background, but they just follow them. They may not even be a part of a church or like anything, but because they have a nice story, a motivating, inspirational story, and yeah, so.
I would say that, okay, because the question is how discipleship can be misunderstood. Number one, discipleship can't be done from far away. You can't be being discipled from somebody that you can't reach.
Wow.
And that is something that even I myself had to like consider, and that's something that I had fell into. And sadly, as the church, we're not necessarily making it easy. Because if, for example, a church is not doing discipleship, then you force the individuals who are looking for discipleship to try and find it somewhere else. But because we live in a world where you don't have to travel in order to get whatever you're looking for, now you're a YouTube disciple. Those people need a person that they can see and talk to, and like can come meet them, and like if it's in the house and they can knock on the door and, hey, is there a problem, and so on and so forth. Because discipling you from through a screen, it doesn't work.
Right.
And so I'd say that what people misunderstand about discipleship is that discipleship is not teaching.
Okay.
Meaning that just because I come on a Sunday, on a Friday, on a Wednesday, and we do Bible study, it doesn't mean that I'm discipling you, or that I'm your discipler, or that you're mine, and vice versa.
Really?
Yes.
Dang.
And so
it's not that easy.
It's not. And so when somebody like, let's say you, now Grace, decides that I'm going to be doing a podcast, and guys, we're going to study the Bible together, right? You're going to open the Bible and you're going to preach the word, and you'll probably do it with accuracy, and everybody's going to be like, oh my God. And then you're going to get millions of followers, and everybody, oh,
I like this story. Yes.
It's going to be, right? But then there are people who are going to start thinking that they are your disciples when you don't know them.
Right.
A discipler prays for his disciples, for example, because Jesus from the scripture prayed for his disciples. Yeah. A discipler is close, meaning that the people who are following him can come to him and ask him a question.
Yeah.
So when Jesus would preach something and they didn't understand it, when everybody else left, they would come and find Jesus and be like, what were you talking about? You can't do that with 1 million followers. And I think God did that on purpose. I think God did it on purpose, that generally speaking, one human being can only actually disciple so many people. And he did that so that everybody else who gets raised in maybe your ministry or whatever would have to have been discipled by the people you discipled. So let's imagine you have a congregation of 100 people. Okay. Grace has a congregation of 100 people. One Grace can probably only disciple, let's say 15.
15. That's high. I was thinking 10.
Let's say 15. Let's say you have an
Stretch
anointing.
it.
Grace has grace. So so you have 15.
Anointing, I
right?
do.
You can probably only disciple 15 people effectively. These are 15 people that you will pour your soul into. Like if you die, it's okay, because these 15 people, I trained them, I did everything to make sure that they came out looking just like Jesus. Those 15 people are now responsible for the other, I think it's 85?
Yes.
Is that the math? 85. Those 15 people are now responsible for dividing up the other 85 people in order to disciple them. You cannot be responsible for those 85 people at the bottom, because if you're responsible for those 85 people at the bottom, then number one, you're probably going to get burnt out, because 100%. One person can't do that with him. And if Jesus didn't do it, you're not going to be the one to do it. Wow. I'm not going to be the one to do it.
Wow. Because from your definition of discipleship, it's impossible. It's impossible.
And again, I wouldn't even call it my definition. I would say that you can't show me in the Bible more than arguably, maybe 20 people that Jesus closely discipled. You can't. You might be able to argue some other stragglers. That's why I used 20 and not 12. Right. You might be able to argue a few other people in the scripture. You might bend some things or whatever. But everybody who was discipled after that fact was not directly discipled by Jesus. They were discipled by the men that Jesus discipled. Yeah. And those men taught exactly as Jesus taught. So people didn't miss a beat. And the Holy Spirit inside of them trained them to look just like Jesus, who's at the top. So all of that is to say, like, we're not on a mission to make supermen and superwomen. We're not on a mission to make one big man of God. No. Jesus is the pattern. Jesus is the person that we follow. Jesus is the person that we worship. And God created you with limitations on purpose, so that you would always remember that. Yeah. So you would focus on the individuals who need to be discipled. Yeah. And once you have focused on those individuals who need to be discipled, you can train them to do the same for others. And that's why, and that's how you won't have pride. You won't have, you won't look at yourself and turn yourself into a god and have people putting pictures of you in their homes. And since you were talking about cults and all that stuff.
Yeah, last video was about cults. Yeah. But no, literally, it's so true. That is so true. That definitely can get it can get confusing in people's heads when they think, all right, Jesus wants me to disciple this many people. And then that definitely can come with a lot of pressure, and then feeling like your calling is to like do something that even Jesus was not trying to do all that.
Was not.
Because it was right in front of your face. Who's right in front of your face? And like, how can you disciple them?
Just if you're in crisis. Can you call Grace Bamba with 7 million? You can't. You literally can't. That's what I'm saying. What is the goal in finding social media shepherds, if you will, who get it right?
I would say so you have something to nourish you and, in your home. When you're not in a church setting, that you have something to consume that will edify you.
Okay. Okay, then, so I'll answer the question like this. I will say that, number one, because every believer is not necessarily the same. Number one, I am not of the flock of believers who believes that if you are not part of this specific group, you are not saved. So, for example, I believe that many, if not most, Catholics are saved.
Okay.
I believe that many, if not most, Methodists are saved. Orthodox, Pentecostals, evangelicals, all the different denominations, there are people who are saved in all of those places. And if you major too much on the minors, you miss the whole point. So if you make it about, this one is speaking in tongues and this one isn't, rather than giving, because I don't know who will be watching or whatever, rather than giving people who, because my theology is not everybody else's theology, I will say find individuals whose theology matches with the theology that you are currently submitted to. Meaning, if your local church is like a full gospel church, like a full First Baptist, one of those churches, for example, whoever you listen to do what you can to make sure that those people are feeding you the same thing that you're already being fed at the church that you currently go to. And that's if you're going to a church. If you're not going to a church, don't look for a social media mentor. Find a church.
Get to a church.
Go to a church. Don't find a social media mentor. Because there's nothing that a social media mentor will do for you except confuse you. Not because they're trying to confuse you, but because you can't reach them. Which means when they say something that sounds weird in your ears, that you have a natural bias towards or whatever, you'll just be confused and you won't know what to do with it. That's why you need what you would call a local church. Because those are people you can confront. The church that I'm at right now, after the message is preached, I can find the guy who preached it and walk up to him and say, you said this, 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 and this. What did you mean? Number one, have a church. And number two, once you have a church, make sure that whatever you're finding on social media, in those mentors and whoever, matches whatever it is that you're being fed in that church. And if they don't match, then the next question you have to start asking yourself is, does God want me at this church? One. Or does God want me listening to those people? Two. Because if you are listening to people whose messages contradict the messages that you're currently hearing, then the conversation you need to be having with God is, why am I at this church?
Right.
So you shouldn't be listening to that guy, whoever that guy is, who said that the rapture is happening next week. If you're listening to that guy and your church's doctrine doesn't align with that guy, then you have to pick one. Because if not, you will be confused. Yeah. And then if you become a discipler, you'll go into the youth ministry and you'll start telling the youth children that, hey, lock in next week, September 24th, the rapture is happening. And it's like, what are we talking about? So, yeah. I don't want to give 3 or 2 or whatever people, even though I mentioned Philip Anthony Mitchell, great guy. So I'll give you that. That one's free. But make sure that the doctrines that you're hearing in your church match with the doctrines that you're hearing in the in whatever ministries that you're watching or listening to online, so that you're not confused, so that things are consistent. Sure. Yeah,
totally agree. Doctrines. Look up what church they're part of. What's that church believe? Just Google search.
Their spiritual fathers are and all that stuff.
Yep.
Because I keep coming back. I didn't know, so I keep coming back to this cult thing.
Cult thing is not a joke.
If you don't do that research, you'll be part of a cult and you won't know that it's a cult.
Take it for granted in this social media age that we just think because someone's has followers and subscribers, okay, they're probably a trustworthy person. Do your research.
There are some scary people.
Anybody you're gonna subscribe to, just look them up on Google.
Yes.
But okay, that was great. I just want to see, do you have anything you want to leave our viewers with? Any charge for people watching this? Doesn't even have to be about discipleship, just anything.
Okay. Go after God. Definitely go after God. One of the things that I heard back when I wasn't serious about my faith at all is that you were not saved to sit. God did not save you for no reason, and he didn't save you on accident. He saved you with a plan, with a purpose, with a calling. But that plan, purpose, and calling can only be found in and through discipleship. And somebody like myself, who's young, who's probably gifted, who's probably anointed, who can probably do all kinds of crazy things, who's probably mesmerizing people or whatever you want to say, might be deceived into thinking that because of all of these gifts, you're ready to teach everybody. Because of all of these gifts, you're ready to minister to everybody. Because of everything that you have seen God do through you, there's no more that you need to learn. It's not true. You need to be pruned. You need to be shaped. You need to be chiseled. You need to be chastised. You need to let God discipline you. You need to be discipled. Every error that we have in our churches today, it is of my understanding that they can all be traced back to discipleship. Every single error. Where discipleship is missing, error is just going to be floating around. When we don't do discipleship properly, we have to start bringing all kinds of strategies from the world that we didn't get from Jesus to start managing our churches, because we're not discipling people. We're not training them in what Jesus taught us. We're using books and all of those different things, techniques. Why? Because discipleship is missing. So get discipled. If you don't have somebody who's discipling you right now, if you're praying about anything, pray about discipleship.